Hello, welcome to the Yawning Portal.
I don't do voices very well.
Welcome back to the table and our continuing after party for GenCon 2022. Like we said, we've had a lot of games to look at, and we're getting to some of them right now. This one right here is called Dungeons & Dragons The Yawning Portal.
This was a complete surprise for me. I wasn't aware of this game. I didn't know it was coming out. I didn't know that it was going to be at GenCon in any capacity. Now, it was not for sale.
No, in fact, I think it's not coming out till maybe late this year. I think they have pre-orders. I think pre-orders are going on right now. And I think it's going to be coming out either very late this year or early next.
Yeah, but they had it on display, and we were lucky enough to be able to talk to them and bring it back with us. If you didn't know, I'm a big Dungeons & Dragons fan. This is obviously a Dungeons & Dragons board game. But more specifically, it is the Yawning Portal, which, if you follow along with D&D, you're well aware, that is an actual inn or tavern within Forgotten Realms, the town of Waterdeep. And it's the place that starts or kicks off a lot of adventures. It's also the place where adventurers come after their quests to just kick back, relax, eat some food, and have a nice night at the inn.
And that's exactly what we're doing here. We're not the heroes. We are effectively the tavern owners. We're the staff here. We're trying to put food, various types of food, we'll get to that in a second, on this table, and then playing heroes at the different seats, trying to fulfill those heroes' desires. You know, what do they want? Do they want quippers and chips?
Yeah, or do they want just ale? Some of them just want a lot of ale. They just got done adventuring.
Yeah, we've got smoked ham. We've got a vegetable platter.
Yeah, no, pass on the vegetable platter.
But my favorite is the quippers and chips. I mean, I assume it's a type of fish.
It's D&D monster. Like yeah, it's like a piranha almost.
But anyway, when you play your cards down there, you're going to collect gems. When you collect the gems, you're going to want to hold on to those because there's all sorts of gem scoring at the end of the game.
Yeah, each one of these adventurers or heroes that comes into the tavern is going to pay for their food, but they're only going to pay for what you can feed them. And that's like really the whole puzzle of the game, because you have all these tables, and each table can fit two adventurers sitting opposite from each other. And when you're placing a hero, you're trying to match up the food that they want exactly, which can lead to some situations where people on opposite sides want the food reversed from the person opposite them, and you can make some really cool combos and plays that way. But everything you're doing on your turn involves placing food, placing heroes, or manipulating this board in some way to try to match up the conditions on these cards.
Yeah, and the way you take your turn is every player is going to have 4 different action tiles, one of each color. And on your turn, you start by selecting one of those action tiles and performing it from left to right. Now, you have to be able to perform everything on the tile or you can't do it. And that becomes part of the puzzle, because there's certain things here that you can't do, even at the beginning of the game or certainly towards the end. But once you've selected your tile, I just move them down until I'm done with them. You do everything left to right, and then you flip that tile over because it's another action on the back of the tile. And each tile shows what the back of the tile action is at the bottom of it, so you know what it is. And in many cases, you're going to want to take an action just so you can get the tile flipped, because the action you really want to take is the one on the other side, maybe on your next turn or something like that.
Because each one does start with the ability to place food. You have one colored tile for each type of food. You'll notice I do like that everything is pretty color-coded.
Yeah.
You have a red tile that puts out the smoked ham. It's a red miniature, or little piece here. And when somebody wants it, when you place them, you can match it up and you get a red gem because it's all red. Now, the food has to be there when you play the card. And that's the timing aspect of the game, because I'm looking at what my actions are available and I'm looking at everybody else's. So if I had just set this up for like a perfect turn and I placed the food out in such a way that this person was ready to eat, I need to look and see who could maybe maximize or take advantage of that, because maybe David has a tile available that's going to let him play a card. So you kind of have to be careful not to set up a perfect table for somebody else, because you might have a perfect setup and then somebody comes along and just uses, part of that setup. Oh, there happens to be a salad here. And then they didn't maximize it, but they did block you from maximizing it. And that's kind of I don't want to say hate drafting or blocking, but it is definitely part of the game.
There's a little bit of that in there for sure, but what you are effectively trying to do on your turn is when you play cards, and that's not going to be something you do every turn. Like we said, that's all tied to the actions you take on the action tiles. But if you do take one where you play a card, when you play it, you get a gem, just like Ryan said, you get a gem of any color that you match with the food above it.
So this would provide one green gem because you matched one vegetable plate.
Right, because there's meat here, and I don't want, this guy wants all vegetable platters. Now, that's one thing you're going to do. You're going to take those gems, but also when you play a card, you're going to take the action of the card. This character says you may score the PMB, and the PMB, might you ask, is the perfect match bonus. That's this little banner right here on the card. And you can take that of an adjacent face-up hero. This wouldn't be a good play because there is no adjacent face-up hero, but you're going to want to take those things into consideration as you're playing the cards. Now, the perfect match bonus is something you can also get if, as you may have guessed, you have a perfect match of food above the character. Now, you don't have to get the perfect match bonus when you play it, but later, someone might actually manipulate the food such that then that triggers the perfect match, and then they will get the perfect match bonus. Either way, whenever that bonus is gotten, that character is going to be flipped over. And this is probably one of the cooler aspects of this, how the scoring comes in. Because as you can tell, you're going to be doing this all throughout the game, getting gems of various colors. There are some wild gems.
Yep.
You get a wild gem, you can add that to any one of the colors at that moment because it's going to count for that for objectives and for end of game scoring. But at the end of the game, among all the different scoring, one of the things is you're going to take, say, all the green gems that you have, and you're going to multiply that by the number of green gems that are face up on cards out here on the table, including the stack. So this is 1, this is 2. So if I had 5 green gems, right now I'd have 10 points. But there are some actions that allow you to manipulate even some of the cards.
That's another element of the take that, because as you're moving things around and taking the actions and abilities of their cards, or even just some of the actions of these tiles are going to allow you to just get rid of cards. And this is good because it frees up a space, and maybe you could play another card that matches really well there and get the bonus. But you can also get rid of some of those flipped over ones, and now I'm making green gems be worth a little bit less. So if there's like 5 green gem cards out here and David has like 6 green gems, every other player at the table is going to be trying to get rid of those green cards as best as possible, where David's probably trying to draw from this green deck.
And get more out.
And get more out to flip so that he can kind of build back up the point value of green.
Yeah, now there are some other things you can do to sort of navigate those things. One of the actions on the yellow tile, or at least on the back, allows you to trade 1 gem for any 2 of another color. So if someone does do that, I could start offloading my green gems and get some other color. There's also some other end of game scoring with the gems where you're going to get some points if you have the most of any one color gem. Yeah. So if I have a ton of green and no one else has more than that of any color.
If you have 10 green and I have 9 red, you have more.
I get 10 points. And then you get 15 points, I believe, if you have the most sets of all the gems. So if you've collected a variety of all the gems.
And then you have in-game scoring cards, which you can claim over the course of the game. As you're making your moves, you're trying, if you can, to also fulfill the qualifications of some of these cards up there, and you'll be able to just claim those, and each one is worth 5 points at the end of the game. And this is kind of a race mechanic, because a lot of these are the first to have something. You get, so again, you have to watch what other players are doing while you're trying to claim these objective cards.
Yeah, so you play this game doing all these actions, rounding around the table until all the food has been placed. So it is somewhat player controlled, because if people aren't putting out more and more food, the game can take a little bit longer. But once someone puts the last food on the table, all the other players are going to get one more turn. And that's the end of the game. You add up all that gem scoring, and it can be a wide range of scoring, but you don't want to let someone get all that bonus gem scoring. If someone gets the 10 and the 15 points, that's a good chunk of points in this
you
game.
really just need to watch what other players are doing for sure, because making sets is useful, but the more cards that are out here, I mean, there could be a ton of one color, and you really want to try to get as many of those gems as possible.
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting and unique game. It took us a minute to sort of grok what was going on here.
It was far deeper than I anticipated, and what I really didn't get at first was the benefit of, like, say, this situation where David might have played this character to get the red and the blue, but he didn't get the perfect match bonus, and then I can somehow manipulate the table, place that there, he's fed, then I get the bonus in flipping it. So you could potentially, there's something that even let you swap, where you might be able to swap it in such a way that you fulfill 2 perfect match bonuses on the exact same turn. And
that would be pretty crazy.
Feels really satisfying.
Yeah, anyway, so if you have any questions about it in any more detail, please make them in the comments below. We'll try to answer what we can. And until next time, as always, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.
Bye.